This is Edgar Hernandez. Today is July 3rd, 2025, and I am interviewing Rusty Daniels. This interview is taking place on the campus of Terrell State Hospital in Terrell, Texas. It is sponsored by the UTA Department of History and Geography and is a part of the Terrell State Hospital project. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing.
I was born and raised here in Terrell, between Terrell and Kaufman. Lived here all my life. We lived out in the country. There was, I think at the time probably 3 or 4 houses on that road. Brothers and sisters. I got 3 sisters, 1 brother. Just raised out there. Lived in Terrell all my life. Worked in Terrell all my life.
What did your father do for work?
My father was a self-employed paint contractor.
And did your mother, was she a stay-at-home mom?
She was for a while, and then she come to work out here in medical records. She retired after, I think she put in, it was either 20 or 25 years in here, and then she retired from here. And then, I had other family, all my siblings. All of them worked out here sometime or another. None of them retired from out here. They worked a while and quit and went somewhere else. But my grandparents on my dad's side now, my grandmother was a nurse up on M&S. Grandfather, he worked in food service. Both of them retired from out here. And then I had a aunt. She worked here, and also an uncle that worked here. But yeah, man, just pretty much all my family's worked here, and I've stayed here longer than any of them.
So while we were growing up, did you have any thoughts about potentially working here from the start, or did it just sort of shift into you happening to work here?
Yeah, it kind of shifted in me having to work here, because like I said, I had done sheetrocking and also painting with my dad, and work had slowed down, wasn't a whole lot of work going on, and decided just to, hey, I'll put my application in here and work here, until the work outside picks up, and leave here and go back to doing that. But I guess I decided to stay here.
How old were you when you first started working here?
18.
18.
18. Yes, sir.
Did you finish college?
No. No. Did not go to college.
Is there any reason for that?
I just worked. I actually started working when I was 15. Part-time, with a guy doing sheet metal work. His name was Robbie Roberts, and I worked with him after school and during the summer months when school was out, and worked with him for a while, probably maybe a year and a half, and then started, working with my dad, doing the painting. My dad, he didn't want none of us boys to ever be in construction, and of course that's what I done, and my brother, he was a carpenter, so yeah, I just something we done,
Did you always see yourself going into this line of work, or did you think about doing
here at the hospital, or always doing construction?
like always doing construction?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You always thought that's what you were going to do?
That's it. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
That was it. That's what my dad done. My uncle, I had a great uncle that was also a paint contractor. So yeah, my dad always made a good living. He fed 5 kids and provided for us doing paint contracting. And of course, my mother worked out here too. So yeah, why change something if it's if it's a good deal.
Did any of your other siblings work here at the hospital?
Oh yeah. All my 3 sisters and my brother worked here. Yes.
What did they do here at the hospital?
My brother actually worked in the paint shop for a little while, and then he worked on the ward. And my sister next to me, she worked on the ward as a ward attendant, and then my other 2 worked in office. Is what they done. They worked in the office.
So it's sort of like your whole family has worked here at one point or another.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Can you go into a little more of that? Like you mentioned that your grandparents were also working here.
Yes.
Like how far back does this go? Does it go back to your extended family?
I can remember my grandparents. I would spend a lot of summer months with my grandparents. My grandfather had retired, and of course both of my parents worked. And when I was little, I stayed at my grandparents' house during the summer months when school was out. And I remember going with my grandpa, driving out here to pick my grandmother up, and they would come out of the administration building, out the side, you know, and she would have her white nurse's uniform on. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah, sure would. Yeah, that was, and like I said, I can remember that. I was probably, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8, something like that. Yeah.
Do you think that influenced your view of the hospital as you
Nah,
grew up, or you think?
I didn't. I don't think so.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the long-term employees here, like Jerry Vick or Kenny
Yeah,
McDonald?
I've known Jerry Vick, and of course he's known my family, by God, forever. And Jerry's a super good guy. Kenny was my boss, and Kenny probably was the best boss I've ever had. You know, Kenny was just a great guy, real fair person. You know, and when he worked maintenance, you know, you done your job. You know, they were no goofing off. If you had a job to do, you done it. And he was a good boss, real good boss.
Do you think there's any reason there's a lot of long-term employees that have stayed here at the hospital for a long time? Do you think there's a particular thing or reason why they stay so long?
I don't think there's any particular reason. You know, if you like where you work, then you know you stay.
Is that why you stay here
Yeah,
so long?
yeah, I like where I work. Yeah, I do.
Did you have any prior experience in the mental health care field?
None whatsoever.
What were your initial impressions or expectations before starting your job here?
Well, it was very different. You know, of course, you know my mother worked out here. She retired from out here. Pretty much all my family has worked out here sometime or another. Grandparents, they retired. So this place, you know, I wasn't a stranger to it. You know, had been out here with them, you know, come out and, you know, pick a family member up from work or something like that. So, but as far as being on the ward, no, I'd never like that. And it's definitely a surprise for sure.
So did your family or friends have any particular reaction to you working at a state-run mental hospital? Or they were just like, this is the usual?
It's just another job. Yeah, yeah, I didn't have no.
Can you describe a typical day at the hospital for you?
At the time working on grounds, it was a lot of mowing, weed eating, edging, just some hot work, you know. And then come wintertime, we used to have to cut wood for the residents that lived here, you know, and they had fireplaces. So we done that and, you know, serviced our lawnmowers, things like that.
Has that changed from when you first started working here to now?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I worked on grounds probably maybe 2 years, and then I went to work in the paint shop. And of course, like I said, my dad was a paint contractor. I'd worked for him, so that's really where I wanted, was in the paint shop. And I worked there for years, you know, and it was painting everything, you know, walls, ceilings, trim, you name it, we painted it. And you know, go on the ward, and we had to work around the clients, and it got interesting at times for sure. You couldn't lay your paint down. You had to, you know, keep it in your hand at all times, because you know a patient would, you know, if you laid it down, that the patient possibly pick it up and drink it. They've done it before. They ever drank paint. Yeah, so yeah, you had to be very careful.
Has that changed to how you're working now?
It has. I work in a plumbing shop now. Well, I worked in a paint shop for several years, and then we went to building mechanics. And building mechanic, you took care of that particular building that you was assigned to, and you know, done that until I retired. And I retired 10 years ago, and then 120 days later, come back to work in the plumbing shop. So yeah, evidently I couldn't get enough.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You grew attached to the job?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, retirement ain't what it's cracked up to be.
How would you describe the work environment and culture among the staff?
It is. It's good. You know, we never really had no problem with staff, you know, at all. You know, maybe if we had a problem with the patient, we could go to staff and say, hey, you know, can you get them back? You know, we're having them, and never really had a problem.
Can you share any memorable experiences or stories that stand out from your time at the hospital?
I remember I was in the paint shop, and we was painting over on Chambers Hall, and I was painting the front of the nurse station, was on my hands and knees, and this lady walked up, and I mean, she flat-handed me right in the back, man, and I like, God, I couldn't believe it. Never been hit by a patient, boy, but she laid it on me. You know, of course, staff, got her way and took care of it. But yeah, that was a surprise. And I've seen a lot of other things that I'm not even going to mention.
Oh,
It's just
okay.
not worth mentioning. It's bad.
What are the most significant challenges you faced in your role here?
I guess really the computer, getting used to the computer system. We at one time was all just pen and paper, writing or doing our work orders and on paper, and and then we went to computer, and still I don't like a computer. It's future, but still I don't like it.
That's the one thing pushing you back?
Yeah, I don't like it.
Did you build any relationship with the patients? And if you did you have...
Not really. No,
Okay.
not really. We would go on a ward and paint, or as now doing plumbing work, and we're just was in and out, and I didn't really do that.
Is there any particular patient you remember, or that it's somewhere in your mind?
Yeah, there was one guy. He was he was kind of a local guy that I met out here, and he worked in the warehouse some, and he was a pretty nice guy, but he had issues. So, but yeah, he was all right, nice guy.
Right.
Just had problems.
That's the one guy you remember?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. From your perspective, how did the hospital's practices and approaches to mental health care evolve during your time here, if you notice anything?
It really has. I mean, we had a lot more patients, years ago, and I've noticed too, we don't have as many patients, but the medication has changed. And you can tell the difference in patients now compared to, years ago. I evidently didn't have the medication they have now. And yeah, it's better. It is. It's better. I think it is.
Going back a little, when did you start working at a hospital? What year?
I started working in September 20th of 1984.
Can you discuss any incidents or events that impacted the hospital or the hospital community that you remember?
I'm not right offhand. I'd have to really sit down and think about that.
No, that's fine. If you don't remember, that's okay. Yeah. How do you cope with the emotional and physical demands of your job, if you have any outlet or any way of dealing with the stress or anything like that?
I go fishing.
Go fishing?
I go to the casino, or I go hunting. It depends on the year, what time of year it is. Either fishing right now or at the casino, or during the wintertime I go hunting. That's
your outlet?
That's my outlet. Either in the woods or on the water.
What support systems were in place for staff dealing with work-related stress or trauma?
Well, as working in the grounds and paint shop, I really don't know that there was any. Back then. That didn't really need it, I thought, or I didn't. And the guys that I worked with, none of them that I knew of needed anything like that.
So that wasn't particularly a problem for your field or your job?
No, no.
Did you witness any changes in societal attitudes towards the mental health care change during your employment? Like the community viewing the hospital differently or viewing the patients differently?
I've known a few people that, had looked at this place as a not really a dangerous place, but at one time they had talked about building a prison in Terrell, and people was really, really upset about that. And you think about it, a person either gets out of prison or escapes, they're getting away from it. They're getting away from prison. But if you get a patient that decides he wants to get out of here and goes over the fence, I've seen him, go over the fence and go in somebody's house, just right across the street. Or when we had people living here, doctors and such, they would take off running and run in their house if it was unlocked. I've actually seen that. So yeah, it's different. I think the people really didn't know what was out here that had never worked here. They didn't know what it was like. And to me, in my opinion, it was more dangerous back then than it is now. With the clients we had back then, and but it could be dangerous now also.
Do you think the community itself views the hospital differently?
Mm, I don't think they do now.
Mm.
I don't think they do now. It's viewed more now. You have the internet and people can go on and look and see different things and different facilities and things like that. And I don't think it's viewed bad or anything like that. It's just a hospital, people need help and a place for employment.
What factors contribute to you for your decision to leave the hospital the first time around?
I was talking to one of the ladies out here that I had went to school with her, and me and her was talking, and she had come to work about the same time I had, and she was talking about retiring. She said, "Well, you ought to see about it." I said, "I've never really given any thought." And she said, "Well, we've both been here pretty much the same time, and we qualify." I said, "You know what? I think I will." So I went to administration and up there and checked, and we talked to Austin, and they said, "Yeah, you're eligible to retire." I said, "Well, you know what? Put me down. I'm gonna retire."
And then, what factors brought you back into the hospital?
Retirement's not for me.
Okay.
I had a honey-do list a mile long, and at the time, I had lost my father and had lost a sister-in-law, and my brother and my mom, they live here local. We don't live very far from one another, and retiring right then, I was kind of around them, and they needed somebody around, so it kind of hit right at the right time.
Oh.
And like I said, I stayed off 120 days and went back to work.
How long ago did you retire?
That's been 10 and a half years ago. Yeah.
In what ways did your experience at the hospital shape your subsequent professional or personal life?
Well, I really don't, honestly, I don't know. Like I said, I've worked all my life,
Okay.
So I can't say that it shaped me, because that was instilled in us when we was kids. My dad, you get out and work and you make a living, provide for your family, and just always done that. It wasn't no, you didn't think about it later. Well, I want to work or skip job to job to job. You get on a job and it paid, and you could take care of your family. You stuck with it. So.
It's just like the outlook that you had growing up?
Yep. Yep.
Have you maintained any connections with any former colleagues?
Oh yeah, some of them. Some of them I do. Some of them they're off, kind of doing their own thing. A few of them.
Are most of those colleagues just people who you work with, or
Yeah.
were they staff here at the hospital?
Yeah, they were staff. Yeah, staff
Okay.
here at the hospital that retired and kind of stay in touch, see what's going on, make sure everybody's doing okay.
Looking back, what are your reflections on the care provided at the hospital during your tenure?
Well, I think patients are better taken care of now. They are. It's we have less patients, but like I said, the medication's better. I'm sure the nursing RNs and LVNs more educated, new things to help, and so I think it's better.
Okay. If given the opportunity again, would you work here again?
I would work here again. Yeah, if I had it to do over again, sure.
Would you change anything from?
Nah, I wouldn't.
You keep
I
it all
wouldn't.
the same?
I like what I do. Like the guys that I work with, the management, we're all bosses. They're all pretty good. I've had good bosses in the past, so no, I wouldn't. I really wouldn't change nothing.
What insights or messages would you like to share with future generations about either mental health care or your experiences at the hospital?
Just, I think if you're young And me, I was brought up, working class family, and just, my dad, when he was young, he worked with his dad, was a farmer, and then got into the paint trade, construction trade. And of course, my boys, I have two sons, and one of them went to college. Nothing. He like me. He works. And I would, if could tell younger guys that's coming out here that's 18, 19 years old, get your education. Get that education. I mean, granted, there is better jobs than this place out here, but if get your education for sure.
Okay.
Don't just settle for one thing. Get up, move on. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to add to this interview that we haven't discussed before?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
No.
Thank you for agreeing to be interviewed today.
All righty.